Okay, I hope you're doing well. So today I'm going to make a video that's a bit different from usual. I'm going to try to make a second video each week, in addition to the main video, which will be released every Sunday, a video packed with value about OFM. Here the idea is that I'm just going to explain my perspective on the matter a bit. So for example, with OFM, the idea is to address a specific topic. And for instance, today we're going to talk about the importance of really bringing a human touch to your teams. Okay, I know that nobody does this, and yet, well, it's actually super important. Why? I'm going to explain a bit how I personally approach this. Back in the day, I used to have chatters. So I've been doing OFM for about 2 years now. And the problem was that, to begin with, I didn't have many chatters, so I was pretty dependent. And on top of that, I didn't do any calls with the chatters. And I saw them too much like robots. But actually, you have to remember that they're just regular people. They're human beings, so of course they have emotions. And you really have to take that into account. That means that tomorrow, if a chatter isn't doing well or something, you shouldn't try to force things or anything like that. You really have to, let's say, take care of them and also consider their well-being. Just try to put yourself in their shoes a little. Doing chatting personally, I did it about 2 years ago, I remember, for a month, or maybe it was a year and a half ago. For a month, honestly, after that, I just couldn't take it anymore. Because it's really complicated, mentally and psychologically, over the long term. So that's why it's super important, finally, to really take this into account. And to really take good care of them. And actually, that's why before I didn't call them, I didn't congratulate them. When things weren't going well, I didn't follow up with them enough. And actually, I almost scolded them. And the problem is that doesn't work in the long run. And even in the short term, it didn't work. Also, a second point I wanted to address in this video is that it's a mistake to think that chatters need to be competent from the start. Once again, I like to repeat this phrase. It's us who make them competent. Actually, I'm telling you this because the other day I had a student who said to me, yeah, we have traffic and everything, it's cool. They even had a day with 60, 70 subs. So that's great. Again, these are students from my coaching program. And of course, they've implemented things that I taught them. And actually, so one of them said to me among them, since they're two partners, they said, the problem is we can't manage to recruit viewers who are really competent. You have to understand that truly competent viewers, I want to say, they don't really exist because the only monetists who are truly competent are in an agency. And of course, the agency really doesn't want to lose them because they're a real rarity. And actually, it's super important. A good chatter nowadays is what makes an OFM agency successful, or at least several good chatters. So there you have it. So basically, I told him, actually, it's pointless. You can't try to find competent ones. He told me, yeah, they all type at 30 words per minute, whatever, they are dumb. Well, first of all, there's the fact that you have to send quite a lot of messages on different platforms. For example, Facebook groups, Telegram, so that you can get quite a few applications. Today, I'm lucky that they come to me, so I have quite a lot of people reaching out to me, which is why I don't need to go post in different groups. Although now, since we're starting to scale up quite a bit, I'm starting to need a lot of chatters. And so obviously, out of 10 applications, we're not necessarily going to take all 10 chatters, of course. So for me, as a criterion, for example, I require 30 words per minute. That's the baseline. But then actually, what you really need to do is support them properly. You should know that chatters actually require a huge amount of time. In fact, people think that by delegating chatting, you won't need to spend time managing the chatters anymore. But that's not true. In fact, it takes up a huge amount of time. And that's why today I have a chat manager. At first, my partners and I were the ones doing it. Actually, it's super important to have someone fully dedicated to it. My chat manager works 10 to 12 hours a day. And really, it's non-stop. You constantly have to be on top of the chatters. All the time, it's about checking their mistakes a bit. And above all, calling them. That is, my chat manager talks to them every day, and so on. And actually, every Monday, we have a group call at noon, because for me, since I'm 5 hours ahead, that means 5 p.m. I would have preferred to do it at 8 p.m., but then it would be 1 a.m. for me, so that's not ideal. I need to have my energy at its peak to really be as productive as possible during the call. And actually, every call is like a masterclass. It's a bit like what I'm doing for you here. Actually, every time you have to repeat things to the team to explain your vision to them, for example, on a particular topic. For instance, it could be about relationships or whatever the subject may be. And yes, we just keep repeating ourselves, but it's super important. And after a while, they'll get it. All right, they'll understand. It's true that at first, well, it's a bit annoying. You feel like you're repeating yourself and all, you feel like you're about to lose it. Basically, it makes us get frustrated, and that's just how it is. Some of my students were a bit annoyed, so I told them, guys, it's normal, it's part of the process. Now, it's really up to you to stay on top of the chatters and to really take the time to explain things to them each time. Also, there's another thing. I had a chatter myself. About 2 years ago, I kept one for several months at first. He was good, but then he got less and less effective. My mistake was that I didn't try out others. All right, not only did I not have a lot of traffic again, I had a little, but not much. Actually, you really need to try out quite a few chatters. For us, let's say in this context, they never leave because they are well paid and well supported. So naturally, a chatter who listens to what we tell them makes money. And so they're going to stay with us. The problem is actually there are some we have to let go for various reasons. For example, there was one guy who expressed himself really well. The problem was that several times he wanted to take too many liberties and didn't respect things at all, the script. You should know that on Inflow, we really have predefined scripts, and that's extremely important. And so it's also really important to have a good workspace for the chatters. So in the end, we let him go because he wanted too much freedom. And especially for trying out new concepts, I told him, if you're with us, it means you're no longer with your previous agency. Because as a result, I only take chatters who have at least some experience and very, very rarely beginners. And I tell them, well, if that's the case, it means it wasn't working out before. So at some point, listen to what we're telling you, because if you don't listen, we'll simply have to stop since you won't be getting any results. If he had tried things out and was getting pretty good results, well, actually, I'd say why not? Why not indeed? But the problem is he doesn't have good results. So it's not possible. So we stopped working with him. So that's just to say that with chatters, we really have to keep a close eye on them. Obviously, there are still some criteria at the beginning, like I told you, words per minute, etc. In my test, in my form, there are also predefined answers. Well, actually, no, there's a test with chatting questions. We can see a bit if the guy doesn't elaborate. Same thing, there are plenty who use ChatGPT. For me, I just reject the application because it's pointless. In the end, I don't know the person's actual level. You won't be able to use ChatGPT during chatting. So what I want are well-developed, good answers. And that's it. So if the chatter doesn't do that, if he doesn't have at least a decent profile, well, it just doesn't work. But for me, you should know that all the chatters I recruit, they're not geniuses at first, not necessarily. But actually, we're going to make sure that they become really good. So good chatters who are competent, who are fast, and that's it. And actually, you really have to stay on top of them. And even me, sometimes I have my chat manager well. For example, the chatter I was telling you about, the one we just fired, who wanted to take way too many liberties. We even cut off his chatting access. That is to show him that at some point, he needs to listen, because he really wasn't listening despite several warnings. Well, we cut off his access. Obviously, that pissed him off. So after that, normally, he should have understood and actually listened to us and followed through. Unfortunately, that's not what he did. Well, it's okay. It's not a big deal. And that's that. In any case, when it comes to pay, it's super important, really, to pay them. So every week, we really have a set day every Monday, my manager at 7 a.m., who makes me a recap. It's super important. For each chatter's pay, of course, he checks with them, so there's never any issue. And every Tuesday morning, they get their pay. No matter what, they get their pay. And that's super important. For example, I had a chatter who told me, thank you so much for being punctual. Why? Because it actually surprised him. And very few agencies do that. A lot of them are unclear and pay chatters pretty much whenever. But even if it's small amounts or not, even if the chatter is owed $3, I don't know, I'll still pay him the $3 on Tuesday. That's the case right now. There's one, I owed him 60, actually the same one, once again. And so I still paid him, even though we weren't working together anymore. And I know there are a lot of people who would say, forget it, it's not worth it. Or something like, I'm not going to talk to him anymore anyway, so it's pointless. Really try to build a good network and a good reputation. It's super important. Also, why do we have calls? Why do they last so long then? An hour and a half, there's actually a lot to talk about, quite simply. It's super important to go over each chatter, to see a bit about their difficulties there and the things that are easy, just what they've tried that worked well, what worked, what they've tried that didn't work as well, what didn't work as well. Obviously, there are things to understand. For example, I have a chatter who suggested to me, why not do some kind of game, etc. Honestly, it's an idea, and it's super important because for me, it's been a while since I've been in chatting, and it allows me to reconnect with a lot of realities that we end up forgetting. And sometimes we say to ourselves, I'm not in chatting anymore, I don't care. But actually, no, we need to be with the chatters. And as I told you, don't forget that it's really tough mentally, emotionally, over the long term, because after all, they're paid on commission. In fact, very often, the number one mistake chatters make is that they want to sell too quickly, without building enough of a relationship, without warming things up enough, because they're thinking the faster they go, I'm sending media, as soon as possible, I'll make money. But in the end, that's not true. They actually make less. Then when they try to make up for it, they still don't focus on building relationships now. No, that would take too much time, so they try to go even faster. But again, they end up making even less money. So again, that's extremely important. So really pay attention to that. There you go. In any case, I hope that these kinds of videos help you learn a little more about the business. And also, these videos are even more natural, more authentic. So that's cool. Personally, I really like it, and I think it can really bring you a lot of value. Also, make sure to pay your chatters well. Don't be afraid to pay them properly. You should know that we pay the chatters 10 to 14%, so it's not the end of the world, but it's still pretty good. There's actually a kind of progression depending on the shift they work. They'll be paid more or less accordingly. Basically, the tier system, let's say for us, if they make between 0 and 250, they get 10%. Between 250 and 500, they get 11%. From 500 to 750, it's 12%. And then 13% after that. That's right, 13% if I remember correctly. So if they make more than 750, and above all, don't hesitate to send them bonuses as well, for example. For instance, I just started with a new model, so I launched her, and in the first week, we brought in a new chatter. And actually, he managed things pretty well. So I owed him 90, and he made, I think, the equivalent of 900 or 10 in 1 week. So for a new chatter, honestly, that's really, really good. Especially since it was a model with only one script, because I had just recruited her. So now we have more. But anyway, I sent him 100 instead of 90. It's a simple thing, but it made him happy. And at least it showed him that we're not afraid to pay him well and to also give him bonuses. So yeah, that's super important, to pay well, specifically your chatters, your team, because precisely, for example, I have my associates. At one point, they said to me, "Come, we try to reduce." I told them it doesn't work like that, because actually you really need to pay your teams well. And that's how it is. That's how they end up staying with us for the long term. And by feeling well paid, they'll want to stay with us to work, and they won't just jump at the next agency that comes along and offers them, say, 20%. And that's, again, super important. So I think sometimes you have to know how to be generous and pay them well precisely to keep them for the long term. And it's precisely by having trustworthy people that we're really going to make money. For us today, if our agency has gone, well, clearly from 0 to where we are now. Today, we are .240, and we're probably going to hit 30. There you go. It didn't happen in 2 months. It happened over 7 or 8 months. But if we've had this kind of steady and above all, truly progressive growth for almost a year now. But already that's pretty cool. And actually, it's because we have good people, you know. My manager for the chatters is actually a former chatter of ours. And actually, we really kept him. We really did. And we gave him a bit more responsibility because he earned it. Today, as a manager, he really does his job well. By the way, shout out to you if you're watching this. And it's really great to have good people like that on the team. And as for him, regarding his salary, though, he's from Benin's average weekly salary. There is about $25. He earns between $200 and $250 a week. So that's actually really, really good. For his country, he's making quite a decent living. And again, that's important. That way, he's really motivated to grow with us. He's not off doing other things at the same time. He's focused with us. And that's really what makes the difference, actually. Same goes for the chatters. We have chatters who have been with us for a while now. And honestly, it's amazing to see how they've progressed. At first, they weren't necessarily the best, but you shouldn't be either. Think to yourself, okay, he's no good. After 2 days of testing, I'll just get rid of him. You have to first see whether they've really understood the basics or not. We have a training program that's pretty simple, basically. It's 5 steps to chatting, which you can also find on Inflow. Our training is really super simple. The idea is really for them to understand it's really the Pareto principle, the 20-80 rule. That's what matters. With the minimum, they'll achieve 80% of the results. And then we'll work on those remaining 20%, that gap with the manager. You also have to see if they are coachable. Do they listen to what you tell them, or do they just not care? And that's extremely important, because if they don't apply it, it's pointless. Honestly, like for example, the chatter I mentioned earlier, the one we let go, they just didn't listen to us. Several times we told him, don't do this, don't do that, and he kept doing it. If he doesn't want to improve, then it's pointless. So at that point, there's no potential. Now, if the chatter improves, even if they're not very skilled at first, if they keep getting better and better day after day, that's great. And then they'll also see their own progress. They'll notice they're making more money. So that's really good. And by the way, just a quick note, don't overlook the female chatters either. A lot of people tell me, okay, I don't hire women, whatever. But let me tell you, before I didn't really work much with female chatters, so women chatters. Now, we've actually just recruited one from Africa. And in her very first week on commission, she made almost $90, which means she earned nearly $900. Actually, I think it was between 900 and 1,000. So for first week, again, same thing. A new female chatter, that's really good. So look, maybe over the month she'll bring us 4,000 if we take the same average. So that's pretty good. And once again, it shows that what matters is really making them better. There's no such thing as the best chatter. Same thing. Some people tell me, yeah, I only hire French people. I don't take Malagasy. I don't take Africans. Well, for me, it's the opposite. I don't work with French people because very often among you, you don't just want to chat for me. You just want to get as much information as possible. Even there are also a lot of scams, okay? Well, for me, that's a hard no, absolutely not. So my team is only, let's say, 75% Africans and 25% Malagasy. And honestly, it's going really well. Why? Because precisely we're supporting them. We have a great chat manager who is also from Benin, so he's African. And it's great because that way they get along really well. And above all, they come from the same region and everything. So there's a real closeness between them. And that's really important. And for us, it allows us to focus on the traffic. For that, today we do almost 30 cases per month. We have no VA. There are 3 of us partners, but even with just 2, it would be the same, because precisely we spend very little time on chatting. Today, since everything is delegated, obviously it still takes some time. I still send out forms, I choose chatters, I contact them, I send them the information. Then, however, I transfer them to my chat manager. But honestly, it really doesn't take that much time. So there you go. I hope you really enjoyed this little video about chatting. For those who want to go further and generate 300 euros a day with OFM, that's the goal of my training. Or you also have the option of coaching along with the training. So you can choose whatever suits you best. The link will be in the description, the first one. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know if you want more. And especially let me know about other topics I could cover like this in a totally authentic and natural way.